Hello, good morning, and welcome. This is Sunrise Daily. I'm Ayo Makinde. Welcome to the show. Well, a good number of things always happen, and Channels Television makes effort every time to bring the top issues to you so you are not distracted from the reality of all of those things. One of those issues is that there is warning out there from all of the authorities concerned that, look, guys, everyone should bear in mind and pay attention to the fact that the rains are here, the flood is going to come, the Oyo Dam is going to be released for the communities that are concerned, and in different parts of the country, not just in Ogun State or Lagos State. So that is that, and I hope that those who need to are taking precaution. But then there is also the ongoing conversations around the release or not, the trial of Nnamdi Kanu, and a number of issues have now evolved from that. And there are those who are arguing, well, while all of the rights to protest, whether or not we have the right to protest in this place or in that place, are there are those who are arguing, what exactly is the issue? Has the defense opened its case? Is the defense now out there making all of the commitments that they need to make beyond the rhetoric and the drama of the protests and all, especially now with the development that Mr. Nnamdi Kanu is going to be defending himself, and we also have reported on Channels Television that the lawyers have withdrawn. How that is going to pan out, I guess we're going to have to wait to see. But then there is also that conversation that came from the Minister of the FCT, Mr. Wike, who is asking for more time. That the president needs a little more time to turn the nation's fortunes around. Now, we will get you, that track for you to listen to exactly what the issues are. But then there is that question. So the question that came to my mind is, time for what? Because just yesterday it was reported that Boko Haram fighters and members of ISWAP launched attacks on communities and military formations in Borno and Yobe State. Oh, of course, we're happy to know that the military said that they have taken them on as well and killed, neutralized, or whatever the word is, quite a number of them. That's significant. The question that I'm always asking is was it impossible for us to have prevented this? Not just the numbers, because these numbers are human lives, and they are Nigerians, and the primary responsibility of government, be it federal, state, or local, is the protection of lives and property. So when we're having these issues, we need to be finding out, asking a number of questions. Let's see if we can listen to Mr. Wike on his call for us to give the president more time to turn the nation's fortunes.
Innovate Africa is a two-day conference that brings together investors, policymakers, global leaders, and entrepreneurs for masterclasses and networking opportunities.
And he says he's giving statistics.
The conference, themed Reimagining Africa's Leadership and Investment, is the focus of the keynote speaker, who appeals to Nigerians to give the administration of President Bola Tinubu more time.
Africa cannot talk about development. Africa cannot talk about progress if leadership is transactional, if leadership is based on relationship, if leadership is not transformational, forget it. And I believe, by the grace of God, Nigeria is going to see a new narrative. I know that a lot of us are not patient, yes, but you forget that things that are so bad. This requires time. This requires taking tough decisions. And then it will take time before you begin to see results. But by the grace of God, the results are coming, trickling in. All we need to do is to be patient.
On Africa's development, Mr. Wike lays the challenge at the doorstep of the continent's leaders.
For too long, Africa has looked outward for solutions to problems that can only be solved from within. The time has come for Africa to come of age and rise beyond the rhetoric of hate and dependency, and to take deliberate, courageous decisions to chart its own path towards self-reliance, prosperity, and global relevance. Foreign aid, once embraced, is a bridge to development, has too often become a crutch that weakens resolve and distorts priorities. Development cannot be donated, it must be built. No nation or continent has ever achieved greatness through the benevolence of others.
The conference hopes to spotlight key areas like infrastructure development, governance, food security, and the creative economy. Daily Amoyeni, Channels Television News.
Well, you've heard Mr. Wike's perspective, not just on Nigeria, but Africa, but I'll stick with Nigeria for a while. Now, one of the critical issues a number of people have looked at over the years is what is the Nigerian vision? Where are we going as a people? There are those who note that a good number of times there is discordance in the tunes being played by the federal government and the state governments. Is that harmonizing now? Now, if we are giving the president more time, and we know that the president cannot do it alone, who is communicating to all critical stakeholders? The federal, the state government, federal agencies, state governments, governors and commissioners and all, local governments, all 774, and LCDAs, whatever the number they are now, that this is the Nigerian vision, this is your contribution, Akwa Ibom, this is your contribution, Kano State, to this Nigerian vision. Otherwise, exactly where we are going it leaves a good number of questions to be asked. But that's not the issue. That's just one of several issues. Another issue, and that's what we're coming to now, I'd like to give you a bit of a background to that, is that the federal government, the president, has sworn in the new INEC chairman. And we know he has also made some commitments. Where do we go from here? Civil society organizations have been asking questions, particularly about the process, not the capability of the INEC chairman, but the process of engaging him. Let's get some background to that and see if we can give the INEC chairman some to-do list from our side as a people.
The council chamber is the venue for the swearing-in ceremony for the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission. In attendance is Vice President Kashim Shettima, the leadership and members of the National Assembly, state governors, the head of civil service of the Federation, and other dignitaries. The designate, Professor Joash Amupitan, waits in readiness. The ceremony commences with the arrival of the president.
Advocate of Nigeria.
With the designate standing, his extensive profile is read and he's invited to take the oath of office.
I, Professor Joash Amupitan, SAN, do solemnly swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and that I will devote myself to the service and well-being of the people of Nigeria. So help me God.
Now, as INEC chairman, he steps forward for a handshake with the president. Some photographs are then taken. In a brief speech, the president notes that the country's electoral system has improved significantly, highlighting the importance of a credible system for a vibrant democracy.
We must consistently improve our electoral process, addressing the challenges of yesterday and innovating for today and tomorrow. To maintain public trust in elections, electoral integrity must be protected. All aspects of the process, from registration to campaigning, immediate access, voting and counting, should be transparent, non-violent, and be credible.
He then gives a charge.
No electoral system is flawless, but since elections are vital to a nation's future, It is essential to continually strengthen electoral institutions, ensuring they are robust, resilient, and safeguarded against artificial setbacks. I therefore charge you, Professor Amupitan, as to take on this important assignment to protect the integrity of our elections and electoral process and strengthen the institutional capacity of INEC.
Speaking afterwards, the chairman states his position clearly.
I'm going to defend the Constitution and the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as far as it relates to the electoral system. And like the president said, I was given a clear charge to ensure credible, fair and free election. Not just that I will ensure that that is done, I'm also going to engage all the stakeholders, because no matter how you set the barometer and the level of success, you still need all the stakeholders to be able to succeed.
All eyes will now be on the new INEC chairman as he begins his tenure with the conduct of the Anambra State governorship election, which is coming up in early November. From the presidential villa, Lanre Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Well, thank you so much for staying with us. Now, that's the background to our next conversation with a legal practitioner who is right here in the studio with us, Mr. Jiti Ogoye. Thanks for joining us today.
It's my pleasure to be here this morning. Thanks for inviting me.
Let's begin with all of the talk, the drama, if you like, the issues people were raising about the process of engaging the chairman of INEC. Is it any different from the previous processes?
It's not different. The mode of appointment is very important in examining the question of neutrality in an election in which the appointor is participating. And this issue has been addressed way back by the Jega panel on electoral reforms. But that piece of the recommendation was not accepted and subsequently was not codified. What do I mean by this is, given that the current state of the law is that a prospective chair or members of the National Electoral Commission sought out by a president and presented through the Council of State and then presented to the Senate for ratification. Therefore, it can be said and argued quite plausibly that the president alone does not appoint the INEC chairman, and that if the Senate were to reject a nominee, that would be the end of the matter. So it is fair to say that the INEC chairman and members of INEC in those circumstances will not be beholden to the president. But in reality, we've seen that if you go by our past experiences, if you go by the EU example, which was a very bad example, that indeed a sitting president can influence a lot of things when it comes to electioneering. So I think that the appointment process could be made better.
Well, while there
could be a reform in that regard. That's my submission.
Right now, is it against the law?
No, it's not against the law. What the law is giving is what is followed.
The president has to only recommend, and then a whole team, like the Council of State, I think, will have to sit and agree. Do you think
the Constitution says that he consults with the Council of State?
So he holds, are you saying that he holds the right to not consult?
No. But we've seen consultations. In some of the consultations, we've seen people who are absent from the consultation. So the constitutional requirement is fulfilled. I'm not saying that thus far the law is being violated. No, that's not my argument. But I'm saying that there have been suggestion that there could be a tweak of that mode of appointment, so that the president may not need to be the person to nominate the INEC chairman.
There have also been questions around whether or not the Leonard Silk, who is now INEC chairman, is right fit. There are those who have wondered, why not just get one of those who are already inside the institution, upgrade them to become the chairman of INEC, so that the culture of the organization is sustained. That's one. On the other hand, you may also want to refer to or respond to whether or not the work that Professor Amupitan had done in that area, in the area of law reforms, is significant enough to qualify him to be INEC chairman.
Now, two things. First, should the INEC chairman, or indeed we can stretch it further, members be appointed from members or ex-members of the commission, so that the institutional memory, the experience that they've acquired over a 5-year period of their appointment while they were serving could be put in good use and all that, and that we will have a brand new INEC chairman who will be learning the course, as it were, and all that. So there is that question. Now, first, there is nothing in the law that compels the appointer or the Council of State or the Senate to look for experience in that regard. That is only somebody who had served on the commission that is suitable or fit to be appointed. So it's not a matter of law. Second, the argument can indeed be made that since malpractices and problems were evident in the management of INEC in the past and in the operation of INEC, that is indeed better to go appoint somebody from outside the commission who will not be tainted, by the accusation and vilification of the past. A brand new person, so to speak. So that argument for me is neither here nor there. Once somebody is competent in terms of education, in terms of learning, experience, aptitude, and all that, I think that that person is appointable, and we shouldn't bother ourselves with the issue of whether they had gathered experience, they had institutional memory, or so on and so forth. In any case, the first ones, where did they work before they were appointed? Akpata, where Justice Akpata, Ephraim Akpata, where did he work before he was appointed? Iwu, Jega, etc., etc. So I think that, if you ask me, there is nothing that disqualifies Professor Amupitan from occupying that
Absolutely. Seat. No one has really argued for or against that in any way, manner, shape, or form. But let's go to some quick key observations. A document was put together by IAGA Africa, for instance, pointing out some key observations in the process, and I hope you'll be able to see it also on the screen, those who are watching from wherever you are. They looked at the questioning, the process, the Senate agenda, and they noticed that of all the questions that were asked, a total of 30 questions were asked. And 26 directly by senators and 4 indirectly. 4 senators were instructed to submit other questions in writing to the nominee, who was told to treat them as part of the working documents. Yes. Now, but there are some questions. 3 questions were posed for INEC independence. Election results, 4 questions. Electoral reform, 2 questions. integrity and accountability of INEC officials, 3 questions, on and on and on like that. Quite some analysis that was made, and there was even something pointed out about the fact that not a single woman was allowed to ask a question. What's your reading of all of that?
Now, let me say that from my observation, plenary session in the Senate, under the click lights of the media camera to show transparency and accountability, are not the best for that kind of screening. The time is short. Senators who are asking questions, realizing that they are being watched at home, may tend to play to the gallery. The process may not be as rigorous as we have wished. The time available may not be sufficient to really grill the nominee and bring out the best in him. So if there were committee sessions where screening could take like 1 day, 2 days, if possible, I'm not just talking about the length of time, the quality is also important. And every aspect will have been covered. That would be better. But, because the office is also very important, we've seen in many occasions, be it the CJN, Chief Justice of Nigeria nominee, when he's being confirmed, we've seen them brought to the plenary. All the members of the Senate will be there. And then they will ask questions and all that. So it's become more ritualistic than substantive and substantial, in my view. So once it's given, it then gives credence to this whole idea, this is a rubber stamping procedure. They will be confirmed anyway. They will not be rejected and all that. I don't think that the system does itself any good by giving credence to that kind of allegation. I want to suggest that screening like this can be at the committee stage, and the committee then will report to the House, and then in a rather summary fashion at the plenary, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, then they are done. But the committee will have done the bulk of the work.
Wouldn't that also raise the issue of complicity?
No, I don't think so, because there can be a presumption of integrity or presumption of regularity. We cannot run away from this institution. So that's what we've had. So, and the law says that they must screen and then confirm. Okay? So we can also make the argument that even the whole House, does not have the integrity to confirm, because they are also politicians who also at one stage or the other pass through INEC when they are going to contest the election. But we can't sidestep those institutions. Okay. But I'm just thinking aloud that it may be beneficial to have a committee screening first. We've seen all these things. The committee hearings in the U.S. Congress are as important as the plenary. Okay. That's where the bulk of the work is done. They fight, they quarrel, they grill people that appear before them. We've seen them in the media, and they can be as significant as the whole voting process in the full Congress.
Okay. Just one quick one on the INEC chairman.
Yeah.
Do you think we have a system rigged to help him succeed, or one that has a slippery slope?
Quite frankly, I do not envy him. Quite frankly. When people are giving political appointment in this client or appointment like this, people clap, people celebrate. Some may even go to the church to do Thanksgiving. They've been given an important position. And of course, those positions are important. They are very important. But when it then comes to executing the functions of the office, it's usually a problem. For example, this INEC chairman that has just been appointed will run into the issue of what are we going to have in the next election. Would the National Assembly have reformed the Electoral Act further to make mandatory, because the court have severally interpreted them that, okay, these rules are in some aspect are decorations. So INEC cannot be compelled to implement them. For example, simultaneous or contemporaneous, beaming of results as they are being counted or tallied and all that. IRF. Good. So now, if the current interpretation stands and fidelity to transmitting live via IRF is made discretionary as the interpretation currently is, then that means in the next election this will come. And when it comes, people may not remember that that's how the court has interpreted those provisions. But they will then remember, oh, this new one has come. It's not going to dim this thing life. And then, of course, just as it happened to the last one, there may be some people who do some skit to call them all sorts of names and so on and so forth. So I think that you need to be very innovative, creative, and very principled to walk through these minds that obviously are there.
Now, a very quick one on the trial of Nnamdi Kanu. A lot has been said, and I know you have your own opinions, perspectives, and all about that one. Mm-hmm. Where do you think both the law and public opinion stand on those?
The trial is ongoing now. And although a lot is being said outside the court, indeed the case is being discussed more outside the court now than in the court, which is an anomaly. In spite of that, one will still have to express one's view about what is going on. Now, let me say that there's a lot of suggestion in the public domain that the trial be stopped and that Nnamdi Kanu be released. Many people, including lawyers, senior lawyers, have called it a political witch hunt and a political trial. Indeed, some have suggested that it's the persecution of an entire ethnic group from which Nnamdi Kanu is extracted. There'll be a lot of outlandish, very, outrageous declarations and pontifications in the media. Now the trial is going on. What do I think should happen? I think that while the president should be open to suggestions for a political settlement and solution, the rule of law must be maintained. A criminal defendant has been asked to defend himself. We must shun the theatrics. Legal team being sacked, defending oneself by himself, and all that. These are these are theatrics. Going to organize protest outside to stop the trial, obviously, and to precipitate a release. All these are theatrics. There's a trial going on. The criminal defendant has the right to defend himself. If he defends himself and is not sentenced, is acquitted, all of us will be happy. If he's convicted, that does not stop the call for a political solution. I'm saying this because of this. This is not the first time things like this will happen in this country. Following 1999, when around here, a lot of people were still talking about, do a nation and all that, as a fallout of the annulment of June 12th. People have forgotten this. President Olusegun Obasanjo arrested Dr. Freddy Fasim and kept them in detention for a long time, even while it was being pretended that they were being tried in Abuja. The other person, Gani Adams, it was not Otumba then, it was not Chief then, it was just Gani Adams, who was also fighting, was also arrested. And Asari Dokubo was also arrested at some point. And the two of them, went through some kind of trial and all that while they are in detention. And at a particular time, they were released. As a matter of fact, before Freddy Fashion, God rest his soul, Dr. Freddy Fashion was released, there was also a drama like this in court. He slumped and fell on the floor, and the wife, God bless him, was saying, you know, meaning that it was drama, and then thereafter he was released. This will continue to happen, and we've seen them because people are making comparisons. Okay, oh, this is happening to Nnamdi Kanu. It's not happening to some bandits who are being encouraged to lay down their arms, and they're having peace accord with them, and so on and so forth. I think to vindicate the rule of law, this trial should be hastened, should be accelerated, and then let's come to the end of it. Because the impression is being given,
okay, and
I'm not happy with that impression, that people commit crimes in Nigeria, outside Nigeria, against Nigeria, are easily convicted where they are. Finland had no business convicting Simon Ekpa. What he did didn't impact Finland. But they found a way that what he was doing was against their own laws. And he's a convict now, accelerated. Okay. Henry Oka allegedly committed criminal offenses in Nigeria. Bolted, he went to South Africa. He's jailed in South Africa now. So why is it easy for people who did something against Nigeria, who ran outside Nigeria, why is it easier to have them face the law? And it's so difficult in our country to have this, because here people valorize criminality and deify rascality.
Well, it's unfortunate that it's a situation that you are not the only one that is complaining about it, and that has complained about it. The question is, what do we do about it? I guess that's another conversation for another time. Added to the fact that some people are asking, calling for the president to intervene and stop the trial and all. Whether or not that's even in line with the rule of law that you're talking about is another question altogether. But for now, we have to thank you very much for your time.
It's a pleasure.
Mr. G.T. Gray is a legal practitioner. We appreciate your time and your thoughts.
Yeah.
And we return. There's been that call repeatedly for Nigeria first, for patronizing made in Nigeria stuff. Which one are we talking about next? You'll find out in our next conversation. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, let's talk about Made in Nigeria. The president and a good number of agencies of government have spoken quite frequently about us prioritizing Nigeria First products, Nigeria First initiative, Nigeria First thoughts and all of that. And there's been questions about whether or not it is something we have all owned. One area of our economy that this is extremely important is in the automotive industry. In other words, vehicles, the cars you drive, the buses, the vehicles, all kinds of them. And that we understand that the National Automotive Design and Development Council in Nigeria has a core mission to create an enabling environment for the manufacture of Nigerian-made vehicles of international standards and at competitive prices, using local resources. What may surprise you is that we have had Nigerian-made products for very many years, even since sometime around the independence or maybe even before that. Whether or not we even consider it to be anything, how far back that goes, I guess it's something that we will be listening to this morning in our conversations with the Director General of the NADDC, the National Automotive Design and Development Council, who joins us from our Abuja studio this morning. Thank you so much for joining us, Mr. Oshanikpe. Joseph Oshanikpe, DG NADDC, we appreciate your time this morning. Your job couldn't be easy. You have been at this for quite a bit, and maybe a first question to ask would be, how has it been? You are practically having to go against the gods, take on ancient structures, so to speak. How has it been? What are the challenges and what are the successes that you've been able to record?
Okay. Good morning, Mr. Makinde, and thank you for having me here this morning. Yes, just as you have rightly said, the sector have a lot of challenges, and as well, we've been able to face most of them head-on. Just as you mentioned, one of the major challenges that the sector has, because when we say sector, we talk more about our stakeholder. We are regulators, and because we are regulator, the main people are the assemblers, those that manufacture vehicles, those that assemble vehicles, those that manufacture components, that is part, those that provide after-sales services. These are the real stakeholders in this sector. And don't forget, even financial institutions are one of the major sectors, because what they do or what they fail to do are part of what will determine the success of this sector. So these are the challenges we take. First of all, the finance. You know that currently the interest rate is cost of fund in Nigeria is hovering above 30%, which if our stakeholders have to borrow from commercial bank, it means they will not be able to produce at competitive price. That's one. Number two, one of the other challenges we are facing currently is the used vehicle issues, because you could argue that because this is what most Nigerians can afford, but again, is one of the challenges. And these are part, as I mentioned, these are challenges that we are facing. But I will tell you that in the last few years, we have grown the number of vehicle manufacturing in Nigeria. As at the time we came in, the number we manufacture in Nigeria was about 5,000. But today, we even manufacture 5,000 in a quarter of the year, which means we have recorded a lot of progress. And then with the adoption of CNG vehicles that are coming in, we increase the components, that is the local components that go into assembling of vehicle. So these are part of what we have achieved. Again, we need to improve on the technical know-how of the stakeholder, because I mentioned the other time that part of the stakeholders are those people that provide after-sales services. And this we have also improved in building capacity for after-sales. These are part of what we've done. Then we face local component. Local components, let me explain that automotive cover two-wheeler, this is motorcycle, three-wheeler, tricycle, and then the one we know so well, motor vehicles. So we've identified a lot of things, especially in two-wheeler and three-wheeler, that we are starting from in boosting the local components that we are using in building vehicle. And when we talk of local component, it doesn't have to be using it to build a new one, but also local component in taking care of after sales. And these are the area we've have a lot of improvement lately. Then the awareness also, because it's one thing for you to produce, it's another thing for Nigeria to know that the vehicle being produced in Nigeria meets international standard. So we have to create that awareness. So I think today there are more awareness about the vehicles that are being produced or assembled in Nigeria by a lot of Nigerian assemblers. There are names in auto industry that you won't hear of in 4 or 5 years ago, but there are now a lot of people know about them. I don't want to mention because we are on a live show. If not, I would have mentioned some of the known automobile companies that are now making waves in Nigeria.
Well, I think it might not be a bad idea to, do some history check. First, for instance,
Okay.
Mr. Oshanike, the first vehicle in Nigeria was in 1902, a steam-powered vehicle. But then the first Nigerian-made car was in 1997 by an inventor and engineer, Dr. Izogu. And one of the challenges that was understood at the time was that the government of the day had promised to mass produce and encourage that. But of course, that didn't see the light of day. And we've also come to understand that over time, over the years, between the 70s, 80s, into the 90s, the automotive industry in Nigeria gradually went down. Now, you have started to record some successes. Do you think we're able to track what the challenges were in the 70s, 80s, even in the 90s, that can ensure that over the next 50, 100 years, Nigeria's automotive industry doesn't just grow, but it doesn't record any challenge that could, any issues or problems that could challenge its growth in the near or far future? You've spoken, for instance, about local content and all. Do we have the back end in Nigeria to sustain that? What are the collaborations that are needed to ensure that we have an ever-growing automotive industry in Nigeria?
Yeah, okay. Firstly, because for you to move forward, you must look at, you mentioned that what's responsible for the kind of the downward trend that we experienced in toward the end of 80s or early 90s. And while we were engaging the OEM, part of part and quality of the part. At the time, some of them said Nigeria came up with a policy that they just have to adopt the locally manufactured spare parts. So what we are doing to correct that is to engage them, identify those that are doing the parts. As I'm talking to you now, we have a committee that composes those OEMs, the auto assemblers, and the vehicle manufacturer, as well as members of Manufacturing Association of Nigeria. Why are we doing this? We want to ensure that, despite the fact that our people have signed MOU concerning a particular brand, because if you sign an MOU, it means the brand, the components, and everything have to align with the main company, that is the parent company. So what we need to do is to engage them and let them carry out tests on the component that we are producing in Nigeria. Because it is when you do that, they will have faith and have comfort in using those components. Immediately you stop them from bringing those one in, they needed to be rest assured that what you are offering, the alternatives you are giving to them, meet international standard. And that's why, as we are negotiating with them, we are also putting up a test center where those components will be tested and confirm that they meet international standard. So we are working on test centers in material test center in Zaria, component test center in Enugu. So these two, we ensure that the component that will be picked or that we are going to delete from those MOU that our people have signed, so those components are tested and they meet international standard. We don't want them to take them out for testing, because we want to be involved in testing to know what goes in. Because you can't, if you take them out and they say, oh, this one doesn't meet international standard, then it may affect the morale of our people. But we make sure we do the test here. If they don't meet international standard, they will see it. They will see the way the test is carried out, and everybody will attest to the authenticity of the process. So these are part of what we are doing. And again, what accounted for this is the high cost of new vehicles. Because if you see the rate at which new vehicles jump up around early after the FEM and the regulation of currency, then it means the cost of a new vehicle becomes so high that our people couldn't afford. What we need to do about that is to provide credit scheme. And this present government, the Renew Hope agenda, have made allowances and for stimulating demand through provision of credit scheme. I mentioned that although we may say about 20 billion set aside by credit card for auto is just a tip of the iceberg. We can't do that. And while we were doing the House of Rep, National Assembly was on the oversight tour the other time, we mentioned it is not only government that finance auto. It's not done any part of the world. It has to be the financial institutions. So we need to work more with the financial institutions so that they will have that comfort to be able to finance auto sector. And again, work more with other regulators so that there is what they call sectorial lending, where a certain percentage of every financial institution's lending will go to a particular sector. So we are going to work more with those that take decision in this regard and try to appeal to financial institutions to look at auto sector, because we cannot sustain the demand, we cannot stimulate the demand without credit financing of auto. It's not done anywhere in the world.
Perhaps
so you can't buy vehicle with 100% cash down. These are part of the things that are responsible for that low demand. And when there is low demand, there's going to be an issue about production. People, because auto is based on the kind of volume, that huge volume that the sector generates.
One of the challenges,
for you to be able to produce a mode that you are going to use for a particular chassis or any
we'll come to that in a moment,
Mr.
Oshanipe, if you can hear me. Perhaps one of the challenges that is one of the challenges of the automotive industry is particularly concerning the investment that private sector, financial institutions investment that you talk about, is that money is a coward. If it is not sure of where it's going to go and multiply itself, it's unlikely to go there. And investors are very, very sensitive about that. So if we cannot patronize, if we cannot guarantee patronage because of high costs, there is a problem. You may want to speak to that. Add that to the fact that even now, petrol engine vehicles are cheaper than CNG vehicles. And at a time where we're talking about energy transition, it's quite a conundrum, isn't it?
Yes, you mentioned, you are quite right, because the fund will go to where they know that the return on it will be higher. But having said that, let's take them one after the other. Let's take the ICE vehicle, that's internal combustion engine vehicle, that is powered by PMS, that is petrol or AGO, compared to the one powered by natural gas. So that the CNG, that is the compressed natural gas. Yes, you said the cost of acquisition may be a bit higher, but over a period of 1 year, you will realize that it's quite cheaper to power your vehicle using CNG than using PMS, because of the savings you are going to make in empowering the vehicle. And after the acquisition of the vehicle, one major cost, the major cost of running the vehicle, is the cost of fuel. And that cost of fuel will determine whether it is going to be profitable over a period of time or not. And with CNG, it's no-brainer that with a CNG powered vehicle, it's cheaper to maintain, it's cheaper to maintain over a period of time than a PMS powered vehicle. So at the initial stage, it may be higher, but over a period of time, CNG vehicle is better and cheaper.
Well, there is also the issue of the encouragement for the local investors. There's a young man we have featured on this station a number of times, Benny Automobile. And one of the things we found out that he's singularly done all of these things on his own, building tractors, agricultural implements and all of that. I know you may want to speak to that one. How do we encourage those young people and bring them into an ecosystem? I'm also aware, I think, was it University of Lagos or University of Ibadan, or maybe even both, have come up with one vehicle or the other, electric vehicle or the other. And there are quite a number of pockets of initiatives like that all over the nation. In order to sustain local capacity of, in manufacturing vehicles, what's the plan? Not just for the big boys, but even for those who are also aspirational as well.
Okay, thank you for that. Benny Jato, I had discussion with him several times, and as I'm talking to you now, in the next few months, we are going to launch, maybe I don't want to say it earlier, but since you have phrased it, we are going to launch and bring to Nigeria a vehicle that we are working with Benny Jato to design as of today, we are looking at, because you mentioned at the intro, when you are giving the intro, that we need to produce vehicle at competitive price. So we are looking at, can we look inward and design our own vehicle that will suit Nigeria topography? And these are the things we need to do, and we decided to partner with Benin on that. We are designing a bus, passenger bus, commercial bus with Benin, and we have gone far in the designing and production. At the end of the day, we are going to look at what's the percentage of local component, because we are giving him and we work with him with the minimum percentage we want to achieve. And we have seen it with what we have done so far. We have even surpassed the minimum percentage. We have gotten the percentage of local component that is encouraging. And we are not only him, we have one other lab in Akure that we are working with in designing our own tricycle, which he has completed. We have test running it, and in the next few weeks, we are going to bring that one also to Nigeria. Why are we doing this? We have the mandate to ensure that we look inward and encourage Nigerians to design and produce vehicles that will be competitive in price and again meet international quality. And with what we have done with them, yes, we are going to
there's quite a lot of
unveil these
things
vehicles
to unpack.
To Nigeria shortly.
My apologies, Mr. Shanuki, because we really have to go now. But there's quite a lot of stuff that we need to unpack. By the way, Benny Automobile, I think that's the name of the brand, but his name is Jerry Malu, and thank you for the partnership with him. I'm hoping that we'll also get collaborations with the Ivory Towers, because we understand that some universities are also coming up with their own initiatives. Even if it is just for within their own ecosystem, it will be a wonderful one for them. We have to thank you for your time this morning, and hope that we'll have more of these conversations so we continue to retain the issue of building local capacity, particularly for the automobile industry, in the public eye. Mr. Joseph Oshanikpe is the DG NADDC. We appreciate your time today.
Thank you for having me on your show.
Okay. And that's Sunrise Daily today and this week. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. I'm Ayo Makine. Bye for now.